You said in one of your videos that when he gives you the downloads, you're not always meant to execute at that moment, but you need to write it all down. Tell me more about that. How do we execute on that?
So one of the things I think Christians get wrong a lot is they get a download from God, which is essentially something that he brings to you in prayer, something that he brings to you in thought, something that he brings to you through a vision, a dream, maybe even a person in the conversation. And you think because you got the download that you immediately supposed to go execute on the download. And so I found just through years of experience, spiritual maturation, is that when you look at the scripture, it talks a lot about how everything is perfect in his time. So all because he gave us the vision, all because he gave us the dream, all because he gave us the download, doesn't mean that it's his intent for us to execute on that in that season. Now, it is, though, our responsibility to preserve it. How do we preserve it? Well, Habakkuk 2:2 says, write the vision, make it plain so that those who read it can run with it. So we need to take whatever the vision and the download is, and we need to document it and document it in a way to where somebody that sees it can read it, it makes sense to them, and they can run with it. So what I've made a habit of doing over the years now is, like, as an example, I think it was either 2020 or 2021. Guy gave me a vision of this brand, okay? The brand is called First 10, and I'm only referencing that because I already got it trademarked, so don't you try, okay? And so the brand is called First 10, and it came to me because tithing has been a fundamental in how I've managed my finances for the last couple of decades, right? If there's anything that I got right as a believer, is that. And it's probably the only thing that I've gotten right consistently, okay? And so God gave me this vision. I was in a cigar lounge with my wife, we having a conversation, and I just felt this quickening in my spirit, and it was like First 10. Out of nowhere. We weren't talking about that. We weren't even talking about tithing. Well, as the vision continued to evolve, I realized that it wasn't just about tithing. It's about first 10 minutes of the day that we give to God, right? For sports people, it could be the first 10 yards. And so this thing can really take on a lot of different expressions of first 10. So what I did was I went and got a logo design. I went and got a trademark, and I even got a couple sample pieces made, but it's sitting on the shelf in my office. I haven't done anything else with that for the last 4 years. Now, fast forward, now I got my Believers in Business community. I got my Believers in Business podcast. We got our Purpose to Profits mastermind. So it's a lot of things that I'm doing now in this season that are showing me that I'm probably on the pathway to creating an environment for First 10 to really manifest itself in the way in which I believe God intended. Because I also believe that when he gives us downloads, when he gives us visions, they're not local, they're global, right? And I believe that First 10 can be, will be a global brand in whatever expression that it's supposed to be in when I put it in the right environment at the right time. So I give you that as an example, and I got so many others that I can, right? Where it's important to preserve the download, not to rush into it. And for many of you, I know that that's been part of your struggle. You get a download from God, you immediately think you need to rush into execution. But what you got to understand is that he's preparing you and preparing it for you. So sometimes the there ain't there yet. And so when you rush into it, the thing that he's prepared for you ain't prepared yet. That's why you find yourself frustrated. That's why you find yourself even sometimes mad at God, like, well, I know you told me to do this. I went and did it, and it ain't working. And it's like, yeah, but he didn't tell you to do it right now, right? He told you this is the vision. Oftentimes the vision is the end, not the beginning, right? So by the time that we execute on the vision, well, it's time for a new vision. That was hitting the goal. That wasn't the start of it. Does that make sense? So I just want to give you context because you beating yourself up and sometimes getting mad at God, and it really ain't on him. It's on us to have discernment, to have wisdom, to stay in his word, to stay in relationship, to stay in conversation with him, to see when is it that we supposed to execute on these things. I'll give you another example. In like January 2021, I felt like I was supposed to start this Believers in Business podcast. And so at that time, one of my mentees in my real estate coaching program, he had just recently came to Christ. And I just felt like it'd be a great dynamic for both of us to do it together. And so he went out, did podcast courses. He did all the infrastructure, the legwork, all the things. And then I was working on like a guest list because I had an idea of like bringing on believers from the marketplace and having them kind of share their story. And so we had put all the infrastructure together. And then after about 3 months of digging into it, we started to kind of be met with some resistance. And all resistance don't mean quit, but all of it does mean pause. And during that pause, I kind of got the most clarity that I ever had throughout the process, that it was not a no, but it was not right now. And so some things was happening in his life, some things that were happening in my life and business that made it even more abundantly clear that we were supposed to go and pursue those things that were put in front of us at that point in time. As a result of doing so, 3 years later, I finally launched the Believers in Business podcast at the end of 2024. Well, I know emphatically, based on when I launched it and the fruit that's come from it, that this was the appropriate season for me to do it, not the previous one. And so just think of downloads from God as crockpot. It's crockpot preparation. It's not microwave preparation. Oftentimes, whatever he gives you is so good that it needs all of the time to go through its natural process, and it's got to have all the key ingredients, and it's got to sustain over time, and it's got to have the proper seasoning. It's got to do all the things that something that you will put in a crock pot for an extended period of time will have to do. And if you take that approach and oftentimes look at it like, if you got something from them, then more than likely it's going to be a process and not instant, then I think you'll give yourself a lot more grace and a lot more patience as you pursue whatever it is and complete the process.